here at the farm, sweating it out. Pretty warm this week. And of course, we are running out of time here. 6 weeks until the Kentucky Open. Are not saying that we're going to push the envelope a lot that early season, but if we need to, we want to be ready. Today's video goes over one of those things I was just thinking about as we create the new farm. I often see a lot of folks that are, whether it's just creating a new piece such as this, or it's doing some stand movement and some new property prep that follows maybe some habitat improvements that you've done over the years. What we are creating today and putting in and starting, make sure that we've got done, or the rest of it doesn't count, is our access trails to and from our tree stands. Now, going into August, it's not what everybody wants to be doing, especially in 90-degree weather. But if you back up and look at a lot of these preparations that we do along the way, if you can't get in and out of the tree stand, these preparations that we've done, these improvements that we've made for quite a while, and planned and purchased the property and you know, big investment, whether you're just leasing a farm, whether you're hunting or public ground, whatever the case is, it's a big investment as far as time, family, you know, time away from family, money out of your pocket. And so what I always emphasize is this, is obviously we are side accessing, we are accessing from the outside of the farm in. So our access trails may be from the property line here, you know, in, they may be 25 yards, they may be 50 yards, they may be 100, depending on contour and the lay, how that transition laid in, you know, what you are hunting off from, you know, how, what bench you chose and stuff like that. But if we don't take the time and create these and create them properly, and you can't get in and out of the stand, like I said, that's all for none. And I think everybody will agree with that. But I'm going to be very honest with you, is this is probably one of the biggest steps that's overlooked. And the reason is, it's time consuming. It's manpower, and we're all busy. Not that anybody's lazy, you know, don't take that from this video. What I'm telling you is it's you know, don't feel bad, because it's a hugely overlooked deal, and it's something that I have in the past kind of figured out a way not to do, instead of doing it correctly, and then wishing I would have through the fall, getting in and out of those tree stands. So side access, big deal. Off your property lines, building that core, leaving that core available, not accessing these stands interior. Now this here's a perfect example. What we've got is, I've got the field edge right out here above us where the ranger is sitting in the contour. Obviously you can see the contour hides us, so we are hidden from a plot that, if you can see the other wood line over there, a plot that lays just on that side. So I'm only about 80 yards from it, but I've got natural screening, but I still got to get to the stand. And so this is a great evening set that we're setting up here, and it's adjacent to, it's at the top of a draw that we call Copperhead Road. What we need to do is we need to be able to get in here, and we need to be able to know when we come down the fence row where to go, how to get there, the path for us of least resistance, and how do you make that situation non-interesting to the deer. Well, so to touch back on what we were going before, a lot of folks would do is pick the tree stand location you can see down here, and then what they would do is they would walk down the field edge, even though luckily here we have a little screening, but they'd walk down the field edge without any screening, you know, man-made Egyptian wheat screening, walk down in and dip down in the, you know, maybe cut a trail, the 10 yards, 15 yards that this is off from the inside corner here of the field, drop down into the stand. Well, if that's the case, you have now exposed, if you're a flashlight entrance kind of hunter, you have exposed yourself to the field. And obviously, hopefully you've already determined that that's not a morning sit, this is an evening sit, and you know, how to get in here without being busted. But so how do you keep the deer off these trails? One thing that you want to create, guys, is this one has just a little dog leg in it right here that I'm going to be taking out, because my access on private property, obviously public ground, if you are able to trim anything, you kind of got to go around some bigger stuff or whatever the case is, I get that. But on private property, you want your access from your tree stand. So starting at your property line, you want your property lines cut straight as an arrow. You're not transition or corridor type, which are, you know, snake trails. You want your fence lines cut out straight as an arrow. And when you turn, this is turning to the left, and we are accessing into this stand. This stand happens to be, because of how this lays, this stand happens to be about 70 yards from the fence row. And so we're cutting this out 70 yards deep, but it's straight. So you access out the property line, you turn on a 90-degree angle right to the stand. Now, every time you put one of those bends in it, you just remind yourself that you're creating a deer trail. You're not you're promoting a foot trail for yourself. Now, how do you take the deer value out of that? What I do is this. I'm going to show you as we go along the way. So any of the transitions, corridors that you hear to speak of, I always talk about you take the debris and you put it on a 90-degree angle off from that, so you don't cattle shoot your transition areas or your corridors where you want your deer to be. That's not the case on an access trail. You don't want the deer to be on there. You want to do everything you can do to take the deer value out of it. So what I do is, when I initially start these, I'm going to show you, is I pile the brush right on the side of the trail. And we'll walk down here as we're talking. I pile the brush right on the side of the trail. And the reason for that is and I parallel the trail. I don't go perpendicular like I do, and I recommend for the, you know, for our transitions and our corridors, we do exactly this. We pile this and we run this right parallel with your trails. And why do we do that? Deer do not like to be in a cattle shoot setting. They don't want to be, if you've ever have, and luckily I do, I feel pretty blessed about that, have some high fence, you know, deer experience, and you are their best friends until it comes to medication time, TB testing, stuff like that. When you try to put these critters in a cattle shoot, and let me tell you, if you don't know that deer don't like to be in a cattle shoot, step in one of those one time at your local deer farm. Ask to help give deer shots, and when they stick their head in there, boy, I'm telling you right now, you think cattle are bad, deer do not like it. So what we try to do here is we try to cattle shoot or parallel all this debris on the edge of these trails, and they don't like the straight as an arrow effect, because it looks like a shooting lane to them, and that's fine. So this is now behind your tree stand. I'll put a couple diagrams up here so this makes sense. This is behind your tree stand to your fence rows. You want them just as straight as an arrow. I'll show you over the top of my head here. Right at the end of that is the stand right there, and you can see from here in, we're, you know, 20 yards from it right now again, and it's just straight, and all of the brush is piled up. You can see the brush here is not perpendicular to the trail, it's parallel to the trail. And what that creates is both sides of the trail, and what that creates is that cattle shoot effect. They don't want to be on it. If they try to come across it, which we're going to touch on here real quick, they jump it, they get across it, they don't want to be hanging out. Perfect situation behind your tree stand, because if you're in your stand, your scent should be blowing back to where you access from. So I'm making these about I like to say 4 feet wide, but sometimes, you know, the more tired you get, the less they get. Now, I did this morning here, obviously. Got started early before it got hot, and I'm using a chainsaw, but a DR trimmer or a brush blade on the front of a weed whip is the tool of choice. I have a 4-foot pair of extendable handle 4-foot Fisker loppers, manual loppers, that I use as well. And so on these trails, big thing to express here, on these trails, take the brush, put it on, put it parallel, cattle shoot these straight as an arrow from your access to your tree stands. So we have that handled. Second thing is, make sure the debris that you're cutting is flush or close to flush to the ground, so you're not tripping over this stubble walking in the dark to and from the tree stand. Because the best case scenario is if you can keep the light off, or a amber light or something very faint, and see this trail ahead of you, that's what you want. So you're walking in low light conditions. You're walking either in or you're walking out in low light conditions. Even in broad daylight, I've biffed it with coming out of a stand before. And if you have your arrows exposed, or you happen to you know, have one knocked, which I don't recommend, but all kinds of different situations. Arrows pop out of quivers all the time. I've had clients before that have been walking behind me when I was guiding, and I turn around and look, and they're just to speak to them about something, or they ask me a question, or whatever cases. I turn around, and at no fault of anybody, something had grabbed one of the arrows out of the quiver brush along the way and exposed that broadhead. Now, if you don't cut this stuff flush to the ground, that would have caught their boot at that point, and they would have fell forward right onto the arrow. It's not good. I've been there, I've done that, I've seen it. So always make sure that these are cut low. Spray them. I like the spray. I don't like the spray obviously close to season because of the smell, but come in, kill that vegetation, weed whip them out. Remember, do not go in after the leaves fall in October in most of the region, or October, November, wherever you're at in the country. Don't go in after leaf down and take a leaf blower and blow these trails out, because at that point you're supposed to be in stealth mode. At least the last thing you want to do is be taking a leaf blower into your tree stand locations, and you're just benefiting your neighbors because you're blowing everything out. Always just clean that leaf debris the following spring out and maintain a good clear trail. Anytime that you're walking it, pick the brush up. Before you know it, guys, you're gonna have this look behind you where you've got that good solid cattle chute in there, and all of a sudden over the years, if the stand's in the right location, even if it's got to be tweaked a little bit at the end, the wall of brush is going to keep growing, and you will take that deer traffic off the trail.